The Netherlands, a nation long admired as a beacon of stability and renowned for its consensus-driven approach to politics, finds itself at a critical juncture. For years, the Dutch political landscape has been characterized by its ability to forge compromises and build broad coalitions. However, this image of serene governance has been shattered as the country has been rocked by a dramatic and unexpected failure to form a new government, leaving the nation in a state of uncertainty. At the heart of this political turmoil stands Geert Wilders, the prominent and often controversial leader of the Party for Freedom. His party surged unexpectedly in the 2023 elections, defying many pre-election polls and predictions. This electoral triumph initially raised hopes and expectations for the formation of a new right-leaning coalition government, potentially ushering in a new era of Dutch politics. But to the surprise of many, coalition talks have abruptly collapsed, leaving the political landscape in disarray. This breakdown has plunged the country into a state of political limbo, with no clear path forward in sight. This impasse serves as a stark reminder of the deep-seated ideological divides that permeate Dutch society and its political system. The fragmented nature of the Dutch political landscape makes coalition building both an essential requirement for governance and an increasingly difficult challenge to overcome. The sudden breakdown of coalition talks has sent shockwaves of concern and uncertainty throughout Dutch society, leaving many citizens worried about the future. The repercussions of this political crisis extend beyond the borders of the Netherlands, reaching the corridors of power within the European Union. Wilders' populist and Eurosceptic stance is being closely watched by EU officials and policymakers, who are assessing the potential implications for the future of European integration. The initial dream of forming a stable and effective majority government now appears increasingly distant and unattainable. This political turmoil is forcing the Dutch nation to engage in a profound reckoning with the inherent limits of compromise and the challenges of navigating deep-seated ideological differences. At the very center of this unfolding crisis stands Geert Wilders himself, a figure who has become synonymous with both fervent support and intense opposition. His unique and often controversial approach to politics has undeniably energized his dedicated supporters, while simultaneously alienating potential coalition partners and fueling political divisions. In order to fully understand how the Netherlands has arrived at this critical juncture in its political history, it is essential to delve into the past. We must carefully examine the trajectory of Wilders' rise to prominence, the history of failed political alliances, and the underlying factors that have contributed to the current impasse. Furthermore, we need to consider the potential long-term consequences of this political crisis for the very foundations of Dutch democracy. In the following scenes, we will embark on a journey to explore the key personalities involved, dissect the intricate details of the coalition breakdown, and ultimately to understand what this unprecedented political earthquake signifies for the future trajectory of the Netherlands as a nation. Geert Wilders, a name synonymous with controversy, has been a disruptive force, a political earthquake shaking the foundations of the Netherlands. He's been a prominent figure in Dutch politics for over 2 decades, leaving an undeniable mark on the nation's political landscape. His influence, whether celebrated or condemned, is impossible to ignore. Once a member of the mainstream VVD, a centre-right party, he was seen as a rising star within the established political order. However, he broke away in 2004, a pivotal moment that reshaped Dutch politics. This departure led to the founding of the Party for Freedom, or PVV, a party that would challenge the status quo. The PVV was built on a platform of fervent nationalism, strict anti-immigration policies, and fierce Euroscepticism, advocating for a more independent Netherlands, free from the constraints of the European Union. Wilders' calls for banning the Quran, a deeply controversial stance, and closing mosques, places of worship for the Muslim community, have drawn both passionate support from those who feel their culture is under threat and widespread condemnation from human rights groups and political opponents alike. His direct, often inflammatory rhetoric, designed to provoke and challenge, amplified by social media, has allowed his message to reach a vast audience. This has mobilized a loyal base of voters who feel ignored by the mainstream. However, His controversial views have made coalition building nearly impossible, isolating him from mainstream political power. Wilders' appeal lies in his promise, a powerful message that resonates with many, to speak for those who feel left behind and unheard in the modern political discourse. These are the people who feel marginalized by globalization and wary of the EU's influence on their national identity. His party's surprising 2023 election victory, a seismic event in Dutch politics, made him a kingmaker, a central figure in determining the future of the Dutch government. But his uncompromising style, his refusal to soften his rhetoric, has, ironically, kept him on the political fringe, unable to fully wield the power his electoral success suggests. Supporters see him as a truth-teller, a brave voice speaking uncomfortable truths. Critics call him a divisive populist, a dangerous demagogue, exploiting fears and prejudices. They accuse him of undermining Dutch tolerance, a core value of the nation's identity. This tension, this fundamental disagreement about Wilders' role in Dutch society, between electoral success and political isolation, between influence and exclusion, set the stage for the coalition crisis, a period of intense political maneuvering and uncertainty. After Wilders' electoral surge, he needed partners to form a government in a fractured parliament. The main contenders, the centre-right VVD, Peter Omtzigt's reformist New Social Contract, NSC, and the Farmer Citizen Movement, BBB. The VVD, cautious after Rutte's departure, demanded Wilders moderate his rhetoric and respect constitutional norms. Omtzigt's NSC, focused on good governance and the rule of law, was wary of Wilders' past statements and insisted on strict constitutional guarantees. The BBB, representing rural interests, was more open to Wilders, but still concerned about the country's stability and international standing. Each party brought its own priorities and red lines, making compromise elusive. The result, a negotiation process fraught with mistrust and competing agendas. Wilders' refusal to fully moderate his controversial positions became a major stumbling block in coalition talks. His provocative public statements and social media outbursts during negotiations fueled distrust among potential partners. The VVD and NSC doubted his willingness to govern for all citizens, fearing his core ideology would overshadow collective interests. Wilders' past calls for banning the Quran and leaving the EU haunted the talks, making assurances of moderation ring hollow. Other leaders worried that aligning with Wilders would damage their credibility and alienate voters. Ultimately, Wilders' focus on his personal brand and uncompromising style undermined the trust needed for coalition building. The result? A political stalemate, with Wilders' way proving incompatible with the demands of partnership. Coalition talks finally broke down after months of fruitless negotiation with irreconcilable differences at the core. The NSC, led by Omtzigt, demanded ironclad respect for the constitution and fundamental rights, demands Wilders could not convincingly meet. Concerns about Wilders' suitability as Prime Minister, especially his impact on the Netherlands' international reputation, became insurmountable. The VVD and NSC feared a Wilders-led government would strain EU relations and incite domestic unrest. Public leaks and recriminations signaled the talks' collapse, with Omtzigt's withdrawal marking the end. The failure was not about a single issue, but a clash of principles, personalities, and a profound lack of trust. The Dutch political system's need for compromise ran headlong into the reality of deep ideological divides. The ongoing political deadlock isn't just an abstract concept. It has very real and tangible consequences for the everyday lives of Dutch citizens. It affects their present and casts a shadow over their future. With only a caretaker government in place, the ability to address pressing matters is severely hampered. This leaves urgent issues: housing, where affordability and availability are major concerns for many families; healthcare, struggling to meet the needs of an aging population; climate change, with the ever-present threat of rising sea levels and extreme weather events; and agriculture, facing challenges from environmental regulations and global competition, all remain unresolved, creating a sense of uncertainty and unease. Policy stagnation, the inability to move forward on critical legislation, and endless political wrangling erode public trust in the political system and fuel a growing sense of cynicism among the electorate. Voters who hoped for change, who placed their faith in the democratic process, now face frustration and disillusionment as their aspirations are put on hold indefinitely. This can lead to apathy, or more worryingly, some may turn to more radical alternatives, seeking solutions outside the established political framework. Economic uncertainty grows, impacting investment and consumer confidence. Businesses and investors await clarity on future policies, potentially slowing economic growth, hindering job creation, and impacting the overall prosperity of the nation. Social tensions rise, exacerbating existing divisions within Dutch society. Divisive debates over immigration, national identity, and cultural values are amplified and further complicated by the ongoing political paralysis. Many citizens feel unrepresented by the current political landscape, anxious about the country's future direction and its ability to maintain social cohesion. The echoes of political failure are felt not just in the halls of power, but in daily life, not just in The Hague, but in communities across the Netherlands. The longer the impasse lasts, the more deeply these consequences will be felt, the greater the risk to the Netherlands' long-term stability, its international reputation, and the well-being of its people. The Netherlands now faces several uncertain paths. Parliament may appoint a new mediator to explore alternative coalitions, but the math for a stable majority remains daunting. New elections are possible, but could deepen divisions or empower more radical voices. A minority government, perhaps led by Wilders' PVV, might form, but would be fragile and struggle to pass legislation. Some suggest a technocratic or extra-parliamentary cabinet, focused on essential issues, but this too is fraught with challenges. A broad national unity government seems unlikely amid current polarization. Each option carries risks, more instability, policy stagnation, or further erosion of public trust. The coming months will test the resilience and creativity of Dutch democracy. Rebuilding trust after such a public failure will be a formidable challenge. Party leaders must reconsider their red lines and find new ways to cooperate, or risk deepening public skepticism. Any new coalition will face intense scrutiny and pressure to succeed where others failed. Unconventional solutions, minority cabinets, limited agendas, or technocratic teams may be needed, but all come with instability. Wilders' role remains central. Either he makes real concessions, or parties must find a way to govern without him, raising questions of legitimacy. The debate over his potential prime ministership will continue to dominate. Exceptional leadership and a willingness to put national interest first are now essential. The Netherlands' tradition of compromise is being tested as never before. The Dutch crisis is a stark reminder. Democracy depends on cooperation and putting the country above personal ambition. Coalition building is the norm in the Netherlands, demanding compromise and mutual respect. The failure to bridge divides leaves citizens feeling unrepresented and challenges unaddressed. This lesson resonates beyond Dutch borders, as many democracies face similar polarization. True leadership means building bridges and forging consensus for the common good. As the Netherlands navigates its uncertain future, unity and shared purpose must guide the way. Only through genuine collaboration can the country overcome its challenges and restore faith in its democracy.